Former Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull fronted National Press Club today with this questionable Donald Trump impression.
And if that means you get a brickbat or a Truth Social post, saying you're weak and ineffectual, you don't know anything about China.
But he wasn't just doing dodgy impressions. He was also giving advice to Anthony Albanese and Peter Dutton on how to handle the American president.
Trying to get into a race of who can do the most sucking up, particularly with Mr. Trump, as I know from direct experience, is not the way to advance your interests or your nation's interests.
Let's be honest, Turnbull's advice in this regard is about as useful as a screen door on a submarine. Now, talking about that, is anybody else worried about AUKUS right now?
Discussing AUKUS with the Prime Minister, sir.
What does that mean?
You could make the case that the less Trump knows about AUKUS, the better, but even still, there are some doubts about the chances of us ever getting 3 to 5 Virginia-class submarines as part of the deal. But if that happens, what is Australia's Plan B? Honestly, sweet FA, but it doesn't hurt to play hypothetical. And one of the options might be to go back to France and hope they don't hold it against us that we left them at the altar in 2021 on that $90 billion submarine deal and shacked up with the Yanks instead.
Conventional diesel-powered submarine was not going to meet Australia's strategic requirements.
The French were so pissed at the time, I'm pretty sure any submarine we bought off them now would have about the same underwater capabilities as this. So is there anyone else we could buy a few subs off? Well, I'm glad you asked. The Germans have this nifty hybrid electric number, the BMW of the seas, if you will. And the Japanese have the Soryu class. FYI, Soryu means Blue Dragon, which probably strikes more fear into the hearts of our enemies than the existing Collins-class submarines do.
At the moment, the Australian Navy has just one fully operational Collins-class submarine.
Sweden, Spain and South Korea also flog subs, but the lead times and capabilities probably mean that sticking with AUKUS is still our best bet. If polls and the eye test are anything to go on, opposition leader Peter Dutton didn't have the best start to the federal election campaign, but he's sure hitting the ground running this week.
Peter Dutton knows it's time to roll up his sleeves.
He's going to get into business here.
Elections can be hard yakka. It's 3 days of high-vis media events to kick-start his campaign.
Ellen Ransley, you've penned an analysis piece on what you've perceived to be the coalition and specifically Peter Dutton's strategy so far in this campaign. What can you tell us about that?
Well, we've known for months now that the road for Peter Dutton to the Lodge, or Kirribilli House at least, is through the outer suburban seats, especially in places like Melbourne, those kind of mortgage belt areas where people are really feeling the sting of cost of living. So pollsters, political commentators have been talking for months about how important Melbourne and Victoria will be. A few of us on the bus were quite surprised it took a couple of days to get here. And when we did get here, it didn't seem to be cost of living high on the agendas for the appearances. So I've spoken to a couple of Liberal strategists just about whether they think that's the right play or not. I've had one Liberal strategist, former PMO, former Scott Morrison staffer say, don't worry, trust the coalition has, the slower start is because people aren't really paying attention yet. We'll get to the beat, cost of living is front of mind and we'll get there. And then I've spoken to a former Liberal strategist who's been a bit more critical and said, they should have hit the ground running on cost of living. So the camp itself appears to be divided.
With the spectre of Donald Trump looming large over the federal election, a new poll has revealed some Aussies think America is a bigger threat to Australia than Russia.
Vladimir Putin leads a country that has invaded another sovereign nation. So the fact that Australians see those leaders as on a par with Donald Trump is really pretty extraordinary.
Joining me now from the United States Studies Centre, Associate Professor in American Politics and Foreign Policy at the University of Sydney, David Smith. David, now, why do you think people would be afraid of America right now?
I think that what people would be afraid of is the fact that Australia is so entangled in so many American systems, that we have so many agreements with the United States, both on security and trade, and they would be worried that the current administration is looking increasingly unstable and untrustworthy. And that's bad news for a country like us, that is so intertwined with America.